I have a job for you.
Jeez, it's not another arc, is it?
No, not again. This time I need a full-scale home renovation.
Noah Construction and Builders is your design and build partner. We do it all, from additions and dormers to full-scale renovations. Schedule your no-cost design consultation today. Visit us online at noahconstruction-builders.com.
Noah Construction and Builders. Through dreams we design, with vision we build.
Welcome to MuscleSport Media Live on WGBB Radio, 95.9 FM, 1240 AM. I am your co-host, Joe Pietaro. Across from Anthony Tuminello, and to my left, Anthony's right, is Trevor behind the board, getting it all out there on the airwaves. Anthony, what's going on, pal?
You in the jungle, baby.
Gonna
I just told Joey the story. Headphones. I just told Joey the story of...
I've never heard that.
Yeah. I saw it on... I saw
it?
Yeah, I saw it on some documentary.
Yeah.
And it said the actual role story of why he said, "Welcome to the jungle." You know, welcome to the jungle, baby. You're gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
He was 15 years old and he took a bus with his buddy from Indiana, a Greyhound bus from Indiana to New York City. So he hopped off the bus, and the first thing that he said he saw some, I guess, homeless guy. And imagine being 15 and you literally...
they wanted to Port Authority, so
Yeah.
they were right on the deuce.
Yeah, so exactly. So that was the story of where he got. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And then it became, put them on the map. That first album, Appetite for Destruction. But welcome to MuscleSport Media Live. We are going to talk about stretching tonight. We're going to kind of very basic stuff, but basic doesn't mean it's not important.
Essential. Basic but essential.
Very essential. Perfect word for it, Ed.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about static versus
dynamic
type of stretching. And I'm going to let Anthony explain the differences between the two, because he's better at this stuff than I am.
I see you do your stuff. So dynamic stretching is active stretching, and that's basically a warm-up, right? So before you do any kind of movement, exercise movement, weight training, explosive stuff for athletes, so on and so forth, dynamic stretching is you're stretching the muscle, you're contracting, you're flexing, but you're really doing it in a dynamic movement type way. So you're moving. So so even dynamic stretching, even something simple like walking on a treadmill is actually a dynamic stretch or an active stretch. So you're supposed to do that before any kind of exercise. And then static stretching is when you're holding it and you stretch and you feel that stretch and you feel that muscle elongating. That is, post-workout or after exercise. So I see people doing static stretching before, which they really shouldn't, because the muscle's not warm yet, so you want to get blood in the muscle. But the dynamic stretching is before, and the static stretching, or it's like when I stretch people, or when you're stretching your quad and you're holding it, so on and so forth, that's for after exercise, really.
So give me an example of a dynamic stretch.
Sure.
Like you're saying, it's got some movement involved. It's not just static, steady.
Well, all right, so an
That's
example,
kind of the clue I use in my head, the ST, steady.
dynamic just means movement, so
Okay.
active stretching. So something like I do, for instance, like regular warm-up people. I have somebody do something called a squat raise. Like 10 reps of a squat raise. So as I'm squatting, I'm raising my arms up, I'm coming back up.
Body weight
Movement, something like that. Now for something like let's say an athlete or a baseball player, something like that, I have them do something called pendulum stretches, where they're stretching their glutes, their hamstring, the swings, the pendulum, like you swing, you swing your leg back and forth, whether it be on the anterior side, it's called the sagittal plane, correct, or on the lateral movement side, you're going back and forth, like it's basically a pendulum movement. You're trying not to flex, but you're trying to just do movement as dynamically. So warming up the muscles, getting the blood in the muscles, getting your body ready for any kind of activity. You see, again, this is what when you go early to a baseball game or a basketball game, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, you see a lot of basketball. They hold it for 10 counts.
Right.
Usually there's one guy that's like the captain or whatever, and he's calling out, and everybody's in a circle and
See,
stretching out on the floor.
Actually, you're not really supposed to hold with any dynamic stretch. That's the whole thing. That's a static stretch. You're supposed to be doing the movement type stuff, like even let's say you want to big thing is for like baseball players or any kind of sprinting athlete. You want to run backwards to warm up the hamstrings.
Yeah.
Hamstrings and glutes, because remember you're going explosive forward. In forward movement, very explosive. So it tends to tighten up your hamstrings and your glutes when you're doing any kind of forward movement.
Basketball, what I was really referencing was the static, which is if they, I don't know what it's called, but it's basically it stretches your hamstrings when you kind of like put your feet soles together and you stretch out, with your knees bent and you stretch out. I used to see guys doing that for like 10 counts and then different, one leg up and then twisted. That's static.
Well, yeah, that's static. Technically, you're supposed to really do that after any kind of movement or any kind of exercise. Dynamic is exactly what we said, movement.
Yeah.
Even running forward, knee highs, things like that. Running backwards, like I said, to stretch the hamstrings and the glute area, which are highly pulled muscles, as everyone knows. You know what I mean? It depends on the activity. It depends on the sport. It depends on explosive movement. Side runnings, things like that.
I did all of that when I coached youth sports, especially football.
Correct.
First thing, on the line.
Yep,
blow a whistle on the line. And they would do the knee ups and all different. But these were static. That's not dynamic.
That's dynamic, yeah. Active, dynamic movement stretching. And that's what you want before. Like, for instance, when even someone starts to weight train, you see someone use one of those bands, right?
Yes.
And they'll bring the bands over their head, in a dynamic movement, and then those are dynamic stretching.
Yeah. Now that's good. Obviously, it's going to warm up
Correct.
Your joints and all stuff like that.
A really good example is when someone says to do internal, external rotation to warm up your rotator cuffs before you do any kind of pushing movement. The internal, external stuff.
Yeah.
That's a really good example of a dynamic stretch.
Yeah, because the rotator is
correct.
It's just it's a magnet for injury.
Correct. Those little intricate muscles.
Yeah. What is some of the ones that you prefer to like for yourself? Let's say, like you said, you have different things for your clients. Maybe some that are athletes, some that are just regular office workers that are staying in shape.
Right.
But for you yourself, at your point at this level of fitness that you're at now, which is a high level of fitness, what are some of the examples of the stretching that you seem to prefer doing before and after you work out?
I do the broomstick stretch. Obviously I'm bringing it over my head. I'm laying it on my traps. I'm bringing it back. On the anterior, you bring it back, laying it on your traps, and then you do some 10, 15 reps of that. I like to do something called a shoulder tap. So let's say let's say for example, I'm doing a chest movement, right? I like to do shoulder taps. So I'll be in the push-up position on like an incline bench, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I would just tap my shoulders. So that warms up the shoulder girdle and the rotator cuff.
Talking about facing the bench.
Yes.
Now,
so if I'm on like in the push-up position,
facing
exactly.
the incline bench.
And then your rotator cuff muscles, your interior external rotation. Now I see a lot of people doing this wrong. So for example, I'll tell you why. So I see a lot of people taking dumbbells, Joey, right? And they hold the dumbbells in front of them, like anterior, and then they're doing internal, external rotation. That is pointless because what happens if you drop that dumbbell?
You hit your foot.
Well, you would. Gravity brings it what?
Down.
Okay, so are you really working your rotator cuffs doing that? The answer is no.
It's kind of more of a...
Right.
You can't radio land. You can't see what I'm doing, but
right.
YouTube can see.
Point being is if you let's say attach a cable, the resistance is coming from the back or the rotator. So meaning that's where you want the resistance for your rotator cuff. So I see a ton of people doing them, and that's actually a pointless exercise.
I see a lot of people with the cable or with the bands, with the handle on the bands, and then tie it to something.
Right.
So that's the right way to do it.
Correct. The dumbbell, if you guys can see me in radio land, which you can't, you're holding a dumbbell in front of you. If you let it go, it's just going to drop. You're not really working your rotator cuffs. You can do it opposite. You can hold a weight this way
and go like
right, and then you would be going against the rotate a couple muscles, but it's not the greatest.
And I've seen that on the cable also, which
Right.
also implements the tricep because it's kind of overhead in a way.
Yeah, that's kind of pointless too. You want to. It's really called the angle of resistance. Not to get technical, it's like if you think of a cam on a machine, the cam is the resistance. So you really kind of mimic what the muscle does.
Now, the thing that I do with the ball for my abs,
Yeah.
you see me, I do it every morning.
Right.
Now, I explained to you that was done because of the back surgery, not to bend the lower back, doing crunches and whatnot. That technically is like a static.
It's actually that's actually an isometric hold to warm up your core muscles. That's excellent.
Okay, but now I'm doing that at the very beginning.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I'm not warming up my shoulder. I'm doing for my abs.
Well, but
and core.
You're that's just like
Full
doing
core.
it's like doing a plank. It's to warm up your stabilizer core muscle. So that's actually correct.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is holding a movement muscle. You understand?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you're not when you're doing your transverse abdominis. Your transverse abdominals muscles are made for stabilizing.
Yeah.
So that's why you're doing that. It actually does make sense because you're warming those muscles up.
And what I'm doing, if people say, what the hell is he talking about? I get a Bosu ball, I put it on a bench that's about, I don't know, a little higher than waist height, I guess. And we got that perfect one that nobody uses, thankfully. In the gym.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. Trevor, are you awake, Trevor? So, Trevor, the best is when I know Joey's in the gym, so because you know what I hear? I hear whistling.
Oh, yeah, I'm a whistler.
I can't even do what he's incredible at a whistle. It's like it
Yeah.
echoes through
I'm
the
good
gym.
at
I
it,
say,
yeah.
"Oh, Joey's here. He's whistling
I
and
whistle
stretching."
today I was whistling the flute of Jethro Tull.
Right, he whistles like one of the seven dwarfs from Snow White. Yeah. See that? How good is that? He's like a 1920 subway worker, right?
I should do that for change, yeah.
Right?
But what I do is I put the Bosu ball on the bench at that kind of eye level, I guess would you say, and I cross my hands over and I push down in the middle of the ball.
Yep.
And I squeeze and tighten and almost kind of try to vacuum.
That's actually
my
good.
abdominals.
You're basically what you're doing is you're warming up your core. That's the same thing as like when you'll see me do planks before anything because of that, because I'm trying to warm up my core and stabilize the muscles. Not your moving rectus abdominis, right? That's we talked about the cube type.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still using that, but that's really to warm up your back and your stabilizer.
Yeah.
So they're doing that. That's actually good. That's an isometric hold.
And then I do planks after that because after we did that show with planks,
What have you been doing?
I've been.
I learned you.
Well, listen, I get freebies.
I learned you.
I stole from you.
I like when people say that.
This portion of MuscleSport
Oh, we
Live is
forgot.
brought to you by Noah Construction-Builders.com. No job too big nor
Pete's in
small.
Vegas right now. Pete's in Vegas.
Pete's in Vegas.
Living it up. No, Pete's doing some
Is it work or
some
play?
it's like marketing. He was hired by a company to do a lot of like content and marketing. He's doing good.
Oh,
Pete.
good, good.
Yeah.
No job too big nor small for
Right.
Pete and the guys.
We're gonna have
at
him
Noah.
on. We're gonna have
100%.
We're
Yeah.
gonna have him and my buddy Anthony on. They have another real estate business that they're doing, so we'll have them on.
Good, definitely. I mean, they support this program. of course.
Absolutely.
You're more than welcome anytime they like.
Right. Oh, we did say, Jerry, if you're listening, you might not be, but we are going to get Jerry Scalise on, which is he was Mr. America in 1987. So that's a good one. He's a
New
good
York / Long Island legend.
legend.
in
He's
bodybuilding.
a really good buddy. I really looked up to him when I was a kid, and he's definitely a local / New York legend around.
Everybody in the old school gyms knows who Jerry.
Yeah, and then
Scalise
Jerry,
is,
and then when I got, I worked with him for a while, and he used to mentor me. He's a big Met fan, so we're gonna get him on. He's a really good dude.
Yeah.
Really good dude.
Jerry is, like I said, he's
Class act.
a big name out here. Which
And
is
he's
cool.
one of us too. He's a big Ginzaloop.
Yeah. And we'll have some wine. Then.
Jerry The Godfather. He's a huge Godfather fan, so he liked to give me some trivia. But I always got it.
You always got it.
Anything, he had a lot of trivia for me, but I always got it. I always answered.
I'd like to see maybe if I'm up to snuff. On
Right, you
that.
know what? We're gonna let Jerry do
Yeah,
that.
I think I know my stuff pretty good.
Well, let's
but,
see.
Well, maybe
Let's
I don't.
see. You might
Maybe I
not.
don't.
You might not.
Yeah. But getting back to the stretching,
Yeah.
the Is it good to do a lot of stretching afterwards? Because I've heard both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Stretching afterwards sometimes isn't that good to do. A little bit, but I'm talking about like
Nah, you never never want to overstretch. You never want, just like anything, you never want to
like
overtrain.
you can, like, tear, because now you're pumped,
Yeah.
and you're a little stiff and maybe a little pain.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too crazy with the stretching.
Nah, you
right?
want a mild discomfort.
Okay.
There's also something called mild fascia release, which you've probably seen that. That's like the foam rolling.
Yes.
That's another good
What
thing.
exactly does that foam roller do?
So
I don't know. I see it.
Right.
It looks
So-
like it does. Looks like it's like a good
very beneficial.
for your lower back and stuff and your core. but
Everything.
Is that what the whole
So,
point of it is?
Mild fascia release is literally breaking up scar tissue, which releases tension in the muscle, reduces soreness, and reduces inflammation. So that's a really good thing to do before. It's almost, they're rolling. So again, it's almost a dynamic movement type thing.
Involved, yeah.
But it's really, really good, especially if you have some kind of injury there or mild fascia. It's just a form of massage therapy, kind of like doing it on your own. But you release a lot of, it helps with scar tissue if there's an injury there. But it really, really helps with inflammation, muscle soreness, things like that. So that's a really good technique as well.
I've seen foam rollers that have the knurls on
Yeah,
them, if you
yeah.
will, for lack of a better term, and
Mhm.
others that don't.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one that's better than the other, or is it just personal preference?
Yeah, one's a little more invasive. So
I
one,
think
one's
that
a
would
little-
probably do more work,
Yeah,
right?
a little more invasive. I mean, it depends. It is preference, but one's a little more invasive.
Yeah.
That's a not
Which
newer,
is the
but
one with the knurls.
yeah,
on
the
it,
nerves
yeah.
with little spikes on them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's almost like a ball with a grip versus a ball without a grip.
Right.
you know.
It's just it's like it's an added resist. It's an added tension to it, so
Mhm.
it'll just knob you a little bit more, like sticking you.
Yeah.
It's like sticking your like a massage therapy when they put their elbow in your or kind of stick their thumb in a sore area. It's kind of the same kind of
Yeah.
concept.
Now, one of the big things that are new out there are these massage guns.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Arnold next week,
Mhm.
so we won't be unless you want to come in. But next week,
Right.
we won't have the two of us here together. I
Mhm.
will be flying home from Columbus, Ohio on
Right.
Monday, and I notice more and more at these expos I go to. These it was all different boots
There's
with
a lot of
these
trends.
massage guns.
Well, they're good, and I'll tell you what they're good in. But here's what they're bad at, because people use them ridiculously stupid. They use them not even on. They're for big muscles. So like big muscle groups, like
Thing
your
really
big.
it's like
correct.
a howitzer or something.
Right. So they're for big muscle bellies, right?
Yeah.
But again, people I see, and so-called fitness professionals, it drives me insane. They're using them on their joints, their knees, their internal obliques, their rotate. People don't know what they're doing with those. They're good for big muscle belly inflammation. It's very similar to the mild fascia type stuff.
Yeah.
But just rapidly. Are they trendy? Yes. Do they work? Yes. If used right, but you're supposed to use those on big muscles, not your little intricate.
Thigh.
Yeah, yes, right, exactly.
Back.
People use it. When I see people, or again, so-called fitness professional idiots that have the education of a snail, use them on people's rotator cuffs, and they're doing their joints or their knees. I cringe what I see. I cringe.
I'll be looking for that next weekend at the because they always, hey, you want to come and try it? That's how they sell them. They're making their money.
Idiots. I mean, I hope that they're doing it correctly.
Yeah, I've seen them a lot of times with the tell you to sit down. They do the thigh,
Like
the
anything.
teardrop area.
There's all, remember, they try to reinvent the wheel every other
Yeah.
in this industry. Every other month, they're trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, fitness is simple.
It is, but it isn't. You got to go
Yeah.
with technology. You got to go with the updated science. There's no question. However, the wheel has been invented, folks. I always
Yeah.
like to say this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can, there's just different types of wheels, and for different cars and athletes, the
Yeah.
same concept.
But if you do the basics with fitness and you stick to a diet, you're gonna get something out of it.
Correct.
there is, I mean, you look at all different things over the years. Cybergenics. I don't know if you're probably too young for that one.
I probably.
Cybergenics
Yeah.
was the big trendy thing, probably in late 80s, early 90s, 88, 89.
I probably saw commercials as a child.
Franco Santuriello, who was an IFBB pro at the time, was the spokesman for it.
Okay.
And it cost $125.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, it wasn't, it wasn't cheap.
Right.
I got it.
What the heck was it? Supplement?
It was a whole kit
Yeah.
that had a book, it had supplements, and it had a whole program. And basically, they told you it was basically just pound as many calories as you can
And take this
do
pill.
this overtraining crazy stuff and take the pill and all of that. But it was really like just a lot of calories. And I honestly, I don't remember all of it. I wish I still had it.
So it was based on the hypertrophy. That you want to build muscle, you're going to eat all these calories and this and that.
Eat big to
Right.
get big, right? It was kind of like that. And it was for years a big thing. But again, like, Icon, remember when the wrestling had Icon or Pro or whatever? It was something that like WWF at the time had it. It was called Icon, ICON.
Well, I remember the Hulk Hogan's weight set as a child.
Well, see, that's good stuff,
that was like
especially when you're a kid and you're
That
starting
was
off.
awesome, man. I wish I had that. I always wanted that. I never got it.
I had the old 110 pound. We spoke
we
about that
talked about
last
that
week,
right.
right? So that kind of Hulk Hogan kind of goes along with that.
Yeah, it was like
just to get a kid moving and stuff. That's good, but these were the things that were like, like these like hot supplements became the big thing, or this new. The ab roller was a big thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Tony Little's Gazelle.
Good God.
I mean, you were talking about trends and things that have come and gone over the decades and stuff like that. But
the fitness disc,
the
Frank Zeppi had
Frank
that,
Zeppi.
whatever. The disc could be like this on the
balance.
freaking. What
It's
is
like
that?
the half a ball?
TMZ? Not TMZ. What is that? The Home Shopping Network.
Oh yeah. I know.
Do this.
Listen, you probably got good pay to do it. I do it too. It's the greatest thing in the world, But yeah, what are some of the things that you have looked at over the years like this? But
90% of the things out there, Joey.
Like
gimmicks?
Yeah, like what about like
couldn't even
circuit?
count.
I remember circuit training with the Nautilus machines was big at Jack LaLanne when I worked there.
You mean
in the 80s?
You mean no? That was based on science circuit.
It was.
Yeah, you know who invented that? Based on science. So it's the one rep to failure thing. That was Mike Menzer. He's a one rep to fail. But that's what
duty training.
Well, that is what exercise physiologists. That is when you're an exercise physiologist. I went to college for that. But when you're an exercise physiologist, your thing is one warm up set, and then one set to absolute failure, regardless of the weight. And that's their thing on how to build hypertrophy. Everyone's different. Everyone's different.
Okay, so it's
those guys. I call them
question.
bookworm trainers. Those guys have never stepped foot into a gym.
Now, obviously, Mike Mensa.
Yeah,
He
the
should
guy.
have won the Mr. Olympia, technically,
Right,
possibly.
right.
I think Frank Zane was the top that
Right,
day in
right.
1980 in Australia.
Right.
But Mensa quit after that because
He was
the whole
so
politics.
bitter.
of it.
Yeah.
But him and his brother,
Yeah, that
right,
was the one set to fail them, the heavy duty.
it
training.
worked for them,
Yeah.
obviously. But I personally can't see that.
I personally believe, if you ask anyone, yeah, I mean, good idea to ask Jerry, because he was with Mike Menzer in the early 80s. Everyone's different. Everyone stimulates their muscles differently. Some people could build muscle very fast, some people can't. So I personally think that there's really not an exact science to it. I mean, that's just, and again, I've been doing this 22 years, so there's not an exact science. You got to figure out, and I always say this, and I repeat myself, it's based on the individual when it comes to hypertrophy and everything, basically.
Yeah. I just think that would be, kind of injury invitation.
Not really. Not really. I mean, again, Dorian Yates used it for a little while. And he was. But here's the point, though. you really got to do it to really feel it. And a lot of people, they
don't get to failure.
They don't get to failure when it comes to that.
They
you know what I
get to
mean?
that rep and it's starting to hurt, and
That's
in
it.
their head that's failure.
But then there's a lot of studies that really to build hypertrophy too. And again, this is why everyone's different. It's really that almost to failure. It's like that third rep to failure that builds hypertrophy. Point being, everybody is different.
And if you're gonna do something like that, you have to have a spotter, obviously, because
Right.
you almost want those forced reps.
And that's
at
what-
the end.
correct.
That's past failure almost.
Well, that's a different thing. That's past failure.
Yeah, but I mean,
Right.
just to get the failure, you're gonna need. I don't care if you're doing curls.
Then there was
you
there was a whole theory on door crap training. So door crap training is
What's that?
door crap training is you don't care what your form looks like at times, as long as you can get some of that muscle, you get that weight up, and you have to do that. You cannot be strict. I don't care what anyone says, and you learn this in the gym.
Yeah.
You cannot be completely time under tension and strict with weight that you're trying to lift heavy. Sometimes you can't. It's impossible.
No.
So that some of that stuff is
I used to do heavy curls when I was younger,
right.
just for my head,
Right.
and have, like you said, door crap. It was just.
Listen, we all used to.
You're doing. I was the king of swing.
Yeah.
It hurt my thighs more than anything going on the way
Right.
down, because there's no way I could do a negative on the way
Correct.
down if it was.
Correct.
I'm talking like 135 curling.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
I don't know why would you even.
Because when you're
I get it.
young,
I get it.
you go through these growing
I get
pains.
it. Well, I was a little different because again, I was.
You went to school. It was different.
I did, but then I took we talked about this when you first interviewed me back in the day. I took my school stuff and I took my time in the gym stuff and I combined everything.
Which is the best way to do it,
Yep.
because you had the best of all worlds
Correct.
at that point.
Correct.
Me, I made some mistakes. I watched other people. I asked people. I read. Muscle and Fitness was the main publication back at the time. So I would see guys. I mean, you couldn't see them. It was in a magazine, but they would try to explain to you.
Yeah.
And kinesiology and stuff like that. The section that was in the front, they
Right.
would show you like the 3D look of the body and inside.
I mean that was my style. I was fascinated. Kinesiology. That's what I got my degree in. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just fascinating. That's the science of the stuff.
Yeah, that was tough to read though.
Yeah, it's not easy.
I couldn't read it.
Sure isn't easy.
I used to skip. I would look at it. All right.
Like, what do you mean sagittal plane? What is that?
No,
Is that
I look-
sounds like the pork store down the block.
Yeah, I would flip to the Corey Evans and glute section. That would be more
there you
important
go.
for me.
Yeah.
Anthony, we're gonna have to leave it there, and I will miss the show next week. I will be at the Arnold. So
I ain't coming.
No,
in.
no one.
Yeah.
At MuscleSport Mag on Instagram for up-to-the-minute updates all weekend long at the Arnold Classic on WGBB Radio. We'll run a replay of this. So we will see you guys in 2 weeks for the next live show. Have a good night, folks.
I'll see if Jerry.
Noah, I have a job for you.
Jeez, it's not another arc, is it?
No, not again. This time I need a full-scale home renovation.
Noah Construction and Builders is your design and build partner. We do it all, from additions and dormers to full-scale renovations. Schedule your no-cost design consultation today. Visit us online at noahconstruction-builders.com.
Noah Construction and Builders. Through dreams we design, with vision we build.